Alrighty, now it's time to power this little bugger up. So, off camera, I've done several things. This is actually the third time I've been playing around with this thing. So, the first time I done this, I tried to run a little buck converter. I mean, a boost converter. So I wanted to take the Lithium 18650 voltage, the nominal voltage, and bump it up to about 5 volts. So that was an epic failure. So the problem is that, believe it or not, this little motor, for this little bugger to start up, it draws over 5 amps. So the this little booster is only rated for 5 amps. And on top of that, the little battery protection board for 18 size lithium cells, the biggest one you can get is 5 amps. So it was stripping that out, and if that didn't trip out, the boost converter would trip out, so it would do a weird slow ramp thing. So it wasn't going to work. And on top of that, this little chip here, especially on the underside of this thing, would get roasting hot. So it would never live very long. So I abandoned the battery protection board. I had a little smaller cell in there, an 18500. It says, the heck with it. I'll just put a 18650, a 2500 milliamp pack in here, and I'll just run it direct to the switch. And that's the way it's going to be. Because now that this thing is lithium powered, and it's going to have its own charging circuit on there that maintains a lithium cell at all times, it can either be left plugged in all the time, or you can remember to charge it up every couple of months. So it doesn't really matter. And since this is 2500 milliamp hours instead of 600 milliamp hours, it's going to run for a very long time. And I mean, yeah, you're going to get some voltage performance issues, because we're going from, 4.8 volts when this NiCad pack is fully charged to, you might as well say it's, even when it's running at 4.8, it probably does drop down to about 4 volts, once the thing is starting to run and stuff like that. So a fully charged lithium pack's going to run at 4 volts for a little while anyway, so not really a huge deal. And on top of that, this thing's going to be able to draw so much current through, if it needs it, it can do it. And it's not going to do it with a NiCad pack, for very long. So abandoning this and stuff like that. And then off camera, I did a couple of things. First of all, I glued the 18650 in here. And then prior to that, I welded some of these tabs on here so I could have something to attach it to. And then I injected some fresh grease into the gear case here, because this thing is very old, and the grease is already turned like a dark brown color and stuff like that. So I injected some fresh grease in there, so that thing should run a very long time. Of course, like I said, I glued the cell in, but now the next little issue we need to address is Jay did mention that the little LED light here, this little switch here, stopped working. So we'll pop this little guy out, and then we'll address that. So all it is just it's 2 pads here that the thing rides against. So we'll get some cleaner out here. We'll get a little deoxit, and we'll clean the switch up a little bit. And then we'll put some more tension on them little tabs. And the light should work, because I didn't see any reason why it should not off camera. You can see a little bit of dirt on there. It only takes a little bit of oxidation to stop something like this from working. So I take that, and then we'll just give this stuff a little bit of attention in case it detensions over its lifetime. And we want to put a lot of force on this because that's all it is. It's just a little melted blob that holds that on. So we won't get too wild on fixing that. We'll just slide this right back into its little slot. And we'll put a little bit more contact cleaner on here. It's also a lubricant, so it'll help it last a little longer. So that takes care of that. So the next thing we need to do is we need to connect the main power from the battery directly to the switch. So on the little switch part here, we got I marked it as this one that's closest to the top. In your view is the negative side, and that's the positive way down there. So we'll hook a positive and a negative, and that'll take care of main power to the switch. So we'll get some wire out and hack off a piece. Stripped it. And then in other events, you've probably noticed that the trigger switch is black now. So in the mayhem of playing around with this thing, I held the iron on way too long, and the heat traveled into the switch, and it destroyed the one set of contacts that operates the forward and reverse. So I had to source another switch, and the only places that had them was China. So that was a long wait for that to come in. Leave plenty of service wire in case this thing ever needs to be maintained ever again. So there's plenty of room in here now, because we're not dealing with a NiCad pack taking up all the room. So that takes care of main connections. So now, does it work? Oh yeah. Does our little light work now? Oh yeah. Nice. So we got the light work, we got main power. So now we got to deal with having to recharge this lithium cell. So in the next segment, we'll build the charging circuit for this. So for our charging situation that we have going on, of course, I'm going to have to charge that 18650 in that little drill. So what I got here is your standard everyday TP056 charging board. So this is a plain Jane model. It doesn't have any of the output circuitry on it. It's charging only. So I emailed Jay. I says, unfortunately, I can't put 2 LEDs on this little display board. So I says, you can have 2 options. You can have a charging LED or a charged LED. So the charging LED will light until it's charged. And if you wanted the charged LED, it will only light when it's charged. So he says, I want a charging LED. So on the TP056 charge board here, there's 2 LEDs. One's going to be orange and one's going to be blue. So we'll take a look at it under the microscope here. So the one on the left is the charging, and the one on the right is charged. So here's our charging, and this is charged. So we're going to remove this LED, and in place of that, we're going to put some wires on it. We're going to attach some wires. So I need to remove that little LED so I can put the wires on there. And this is very fine stuff, especially the traces and stuff like that. They're easily damaged. It doesn't take much to rip them off. So we'll try to take as much solder off as possible. Makes it a little easier to take it off. Usually when you get these hot enough, they'll usually just flick off. But we don't want to damage the traces. Okay, so that takes care of that. So we'll put some solder on them pads. So that looks good. So now we'll just get some wire stripped here. We don't need a lot of wire hanging out, so we'll just strip a little bit. And we'll tin them a little bit. Now we can attach these wires to the board. So our pad closest to the resistor, that's our ground side. Do a little trimming. And then our positive side, so that's our positive and negative. So now we can solder our little LED here to our board here. This is an orange LED. So just for demonstration purposes, I'll temporarily connect this up so we can verify that it works. Because when I put it into the drill, or I should say the driver, it will, I'll custom cut the LEDs. So this is our, and I put the LED in just like the board here. We got B plus and B minus. So now, when we plug in this board, we should have a LED. So we'll plug in, get the right orientation. So right now it's flashing here because it's looking for a signal. So we'll get a, what do I got here? We'll find a battery. Little battery. So when I connect this battery, this little LED should start glowing orange. So we got our B minus. It's going to be hard to hold this. I think you can see it light up. So that's our little LED. So that part of the project is complete. For a little LED status. So now we'll move on to the charging cable. So now our final step before we see if it screws something in. Now we got to address our charging cord situation. So now that this is this driver is USB powered based now off a lithium battery now it can be charged by USB. So now we need to make up a cord for them. So I got about 30 inches of wire here. That should be long enough to do something. I got a 5.5 by 2.1 barrel jack here for the little accepting charge connector that's in the driver. So that'll go in like that. So we'll connect in two wires, but we need to make up a USB cord. So here's my it's a 3-piece USB cord here. So you got the main plug here, and then we got the shell that just snaps together. So let's make a charge cord up. So what I like to do for these plugs, because I've done a number of them, I like to put them in a little breakout board. So it reminds me of which side is positive and which side is negative, but more importantly, it absorbs some of the heat from the soldering iron, so we can, so I don't have to worry about melting the plug when I'm doing this. So the left side of the plug here is our ground, and the right side is our main power for 5 volts. So we'll put some solder in here. And then we'll tin up our wire and just reflow it. So that's our connection for the plug here. So now we can put our little clamshell on here. And then we put the other half on. So with these particular type of replacement USB connectors, it's very easy to get this clamshell to split apart and expose everything inside. So what I do is you can either glue them, or I put a piece of heat shrink over the top of them and then shrink them down to keep the connector closed. Because it doesn't take much effort to open these clamshells back up. So it's a nice tight fit. So we'll just shrink the rest of it down. So that'll never open, because I've had many of these things open up, and then you lose the halves that falls behind something or in something, and then you're pretty much SOL. So on the other side here, we'll connect our little barrel jack. Split that apart, and then we'll get some heat shrink. So we'll get a nice big piece to go over the whole thing when we're done. Get that out of the way. And then we need some smaller ones. That'll go over the wires. So that'll go over, and then we'll cut this in half. This type of wire is hard to mingle together. So usually what I'll do is just solder them together and then reflow it, and it's a good enough connection. Because once you solder wire, most likely, if it ever pulls apart, it's very unlikely you're going to pull the solder, rip the solder joint apart, and you'll break the wire before the solder fails. We'll just put our heat shrink over. And then we'll put our big heat shrink over. And there is our USB to barrel jack connector for Jay's little electric screwdriver. So now for a final touch, we'll label our cord here. So we got the Chicago screwdriver, lithium ion. So he knows what this cord is for. So the hard part of this is actually getting the backing off so you can apply it. There's our little label. So that takes care of the charge cord. So now we'll do final assembly. All right, final assembly. And then we'll, another item that will be fixed, repaired, modded, and on my hair. So let's put the charging circuit in. So here's our little original barrel jack, and here's our nicely built charging circuit. So now on the board here, of course, that's what's nice about these boards is that you got USB or you got direct wire termination here. So we'll be using the direct wire, and then we'll put these little guys in here, and then we'll solder it up. Okay, so this little guy goes in here. And this thing can be contorted a little bit. Hang out in here. So that would be like that. Our little light here, charging light, goes in here. So he'll hang out in there, and then we'll route the wires in there and tuck them away. But now we got to get wires from this little charging circuit to our battery. So we'll do that right now. And we'll be careful with these little wires so we don't disturb them, because they're only on little surface mount pads, so it won't take much to rip that off. We'll just apply them to the board. So our positive is over here. That little hole is a little too small. So we'll do the next best thing and just solder it to the pad. Take care of that. So now what I want to do is kind of secure these so it doesn't get ripped off. takes care of that. I'll put our little ground wire on. I'll put a little tape around it. Not that it needs it, but it's good practice. So that's our little charging circuit all hooked up. Now we'll just stick it in here. Like that. And then we'll take the wires and we'll give them a little loopy-loopy. Then we got a little display board here. I'll just poke them in the slot. He'll hang out like that. And then we'll route the wires here somehow. Something like that. Get a little zip tie. Another one. So that should just about take care of everything in here. Now we'll just put the case back on. So that still works. We'll try our little charging cable here. So we'll plug them into USB. Our little light comes on, as you can see. So that light will be on while it's charging, and then it will go off when it's charged. That's what Jay requested. Because I emailed him. I says, do you want a charging light or a charged light? So he says he wants a charging. So that's what we have. So now we'll put it back together. Put our little oh shit strap on. And then we'll put the screws back in. And this little project is complete. So we got this little guy. And then we got the other one that hides underneath the sticker. Holds the motor in place so it doesn't twist. Then we got that one, and that one, and this one up here, and this one over here, and that one over there. There. So now we got our working driver. Already put a label on there. Remind him that charge at 5 volts and don't stick your 9 volt charger in there. Got the, you know, like I showed in the previous segment, I got the little charge cord labeled. So now we got our little working driver. We got forward and reverse. We've restored the little driver light. We got our charging capability, so he can charge it when he needs to. So our little light will come on, and that'll go off when it's done charging. So that's good. So I'll take you out and we'll see if we can unscrew something. So I'll fire up this video recorder. I'll turn that one off. And we will go see if we can unscrew something. Like a 3-inch screw. So let's go. And I'll take this bit out because I have squares. And we'll put this on. And we'll go see if we can take a screw out. So hit record on this. And now we'll go out. And here's a nice screw. This should be a big one. Oh yeah. Come on, baby. So there's a nice long screw that we successfully pulled out of a door frame. Now this is something you wouldn't want to do all the time because you're only dealing with a little plastic gear case. Yeah. So, little screwdriver has got quite a bit of power. You know, like I said, you don't want to be doing this on a regular basis because this thing was never designed to do that kind of work. So, that takes care of the little Chicago Electric Harbor Freight Pro Series. I guess we can call it Pro now. Chicago Electric power tool. It's no longer 4.8. It's a lithium powered and probably does not even come close to 180 RPM anymore. But this little torquey, it's got some torque, which is actually quite surprising on what it can do. And then we got our, like I said, our little light work skin. So we got that fixed. And I did like I did mention, I did inject into the gear case. I did inject some fresh motor grease or gear case grease into the planetary gear there. So he's got a whole 1 milliliter of fresh grease in there. So the gear case should last a long time. This driver should run for a long time. So that's it for the fix and mod repair of JayKay18s little tchotchkes that he sent me to fix. We have successfully fixed everything and modded everything successfully. Yeah, over as you know, from the beginning of the videos until the very ends, things have changed. Couple of little snafus happened. Little modifications needed to be done. You know, some stuff worked, some didn't, and but overall, everything is working, and he should be very happy. And coming up in the next series, I'm going to be working on 2 early birthday presents. So make sure you continue on watching. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.